All right. Good evening, Grunts. How's everybody doing out there? The topic of tonight: can Germans own guns? That's kind of a myth. When I'm traveling around in the States, a lot of people think not. It's impossible. So I could run my trap for a couple hours and talk about it myself as a guy who's been over here a lot, or we could just bring in an actual expert. What better than an actual firearms instructor? So let me introduce you guys to, got a camera flicker going on here, my buddy Chris. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. So we got a good topic to cover tonight. So tell us a little bit about your background, whatever you wish to share.
I'm 45. I have been, I have had to do with firearms since I was 16 when I made my hunting license. When I passed my hunting license, which also then gave me the right to acquire my hunting tools. So that was my first touch point with firearms. And ever since, I have been hunting, I have been shooting, and I have been training with training companies as well in the US. I've been training in the US as well. I'm training a lot in Switzerland as well. And I'm owning I have my own firearms instruction company, and I'm training private security companies, sports shooters, hunters, and I also have Leos coming to me to train.
Cool. Some people explain Leo. Some people still don't get that.
Law enforcement officer.
Okay, yeah. There's some knuckleheads out there. It's all right. Okay, so you're as an actual instructor in Germany. How long have you been instructing?
I've been instructing full time with my own company now for 5 years.
Okay. Have you helped people get licenses over here?
Yes, as well. I also have the when the government gave me the duty to teach people firearm safety and also to take the exam. So, which is one of 6 prerequisites you have to fulfill to be able to own a firearm in Germany. So, you got to pass a course, and then which ends with an exam, and I'm the main examiner. So.
Okay, cool. So you actually test people.
Yes, I do.
All right. So jumping right into it, what are the ways you can get a gun in Germany?
Well, the law says guns are prohibited as long as you don't have a reason that would give you an exemption. So in Germany, normally everything is just prohibited unless there is a reason. Unless there's an exemption. So it's not like in the US where pretty much everything is permitted unless it's prohibited. Here it is the other way around. So it's same with firearms, right? So the exemption.
I know there's a German constitution for Fassung, and I've read through it a bit just to let people know there is no Second Amendment as far as ours.
Exactly. No.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
The exception from the rule would be that you can prove that you have a reason to own a gun. Well, self-defense is not a reason to own a gun. That's the thing. That's the main thing, right? So, because Germany is such a safe country, blah, blah, blah. It is a safe country. So, but still though. So reasons to own a gun is if you need it to do your sports. So if you're a sports shooter, right? Or if you need a gun for hunting, because hunting with a bow or a crossbow is not allowed in Germany, by the way.
At all? No.
At all? No.
Okay. So just sport shooting with that stuff, crossbows and arrows.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. So hunting is only allowed with firearms.
So there's basically 2 methods: sport shooting or hunting.
Exactly. Theoretically, if you are a very, very endangered person, then you would also, and you get a rating by the federal agency that say, well, you are under threat of whatever, then, and you are considered a person in danger, you could get a license, but that is pretty much just a theory.
So, like a security contractor, like
Yeah,
personal security, people guarding money or something,
yeah.
would they go for? I had a buddy that did that, and there was like a really special security training certificate he had to get. So, would he have gotten a Waffenschein, like a regular sport gun license first, or could you get that as a hunter as well?
No. So these exams that I take from people is the one for the sports shooters and also for security companies. So everybody working for a security company, let's say for a money transporting company, this kind of business would be deemed by the government as a high risk business, and the business then would get a permit. So the business would get the permit for the guns, for the weapons, right?
Oh, okay.
And then the drivers, they would get, let's say, sub permits, but only for when they work and for the exact routes they drive.
Okay, so with that being said, outside, so they couldn't carry those guns on them outside of their job.
No.
Off their duty location. Okay.
No.
So outside of that, like a security, can you carry guns in general in Germany? Like if you got your sport license or hunting license, can you walk around with a pistol concealed or something?
No. So you can as a sports shooter, you can transport the gun from your home to the range, or let's say to a gunsmith or whatever, right? But transporting means in a bag or a suitcase that needs to be locked with a like a suitcase lock, right? But it's not to prevent the gun from being stolen. It's for preventing you to, when you're seeing red, to do something that you might regret later. So it's to prevent the public from the gun owner, the lawful gun owner.
Because a crazy guy wouldn't be able to unlock his case and go shoot up the place. Yeah. Got it.
So this legislation has been in place for only a couple of years, to be honest. And before this legislation came into power, it's not that this legislation prevented anything from happening that has happened before. It's just some legislation that came, and I mean, worthless.
It's pretty much the same in the States. It's all feel good laws,
Feel good laws, good.
Yeah, and it's just, people run with their feelings, and that's how they make decisions. And so a lot of people support that, but there's so about constitutional carry in America?
Yes, I heard about it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're up to 25 now, I believe.
Nice.
Alabama just joined the list, which is surprising. This month they joined, but Texas was like number 20. So
yeah,
Texas sucks. Unlike what people say, but it's strange the way America is, kind of how it's designed. You have states where it's extremely restrictive, and like my home state, Mississippi, it's constitutional carry. So unless it's otherwise prohibited, like a school, a post office, going out drinking at the bar, besides all that, you can carry concealed and open. And then like when I go over to California, and Nevada's kind of silly sometimes, you have, like with California, you have to have your stuff locked up. So when you're transporting your gun to Germany, is it like a hard case, or does that matter?
That's the fun thing. It doesn't even matter. So it's just
something locked.
Yeah, just something locked. It can be just a normal backpack. I mean, something non-descriptive is from a security point of view. is quite clever. Would be quite clever, right? I mean, instead of running a hard gun case with whatever 511 stickers on it or so, or big Glock. And I mean, many people do, but it's always more intelligent to not make yourself a target straight away.
Oh yeah, you're talking about a lot of tactical cool guys right now. They got to show off,
Yeah.
Whether even if they don't have a gun, like when I'm traveling in the States, I can tell the guys that could be a threat if something went down just by the way they're dressed. And like me, if I walked around like this, it's also a friendly flag. Let people know you're cool. But
absolutely. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Another question is,
But wait, let me elaborate on the carrying stuff. So
Okay.
you can only transport from home to the gun range, or let's say to the gun store, or to the gunsmith. But for me as a hunter, I'm allowed to carry unloaded from my house to where I go hunting.
Okay.
So yeah, because so that's a little bit different, but carrying unloaded. I mean, my sidearm, for instance, that I do have here. All right.
Yeah, go ahead. Show us what you got, man. So any Californians we got in here?
Clear. Well, this is a Glock 19X standard. Nothing fancy. Does the job. I love it.
Yeah.
And by the way,
and
I also have this.
What's the length of that?
10.5-inch barrel. It's just a standard AR. Direct impingement. 10.5-inch barrel.
So that's illegal in California. Can you have a collapsible buttstock on that, or does it have to be fixed?
Collapsible like this.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Could you have a folding one if you wanted, like one that folds? Could you have those?
Yes. As long as it does not reduce the usable length of the rifle to below 60 centimeters, because 60 centimeters is what would make what distinguishes a between handgun and the long gun. It's 60 centimeters. Okay. So
that's 23 and a half inches.
Yeah. So total operable length. Okay. So if this was with a collapse with a foldable one, it might be below 23 inches in total and still be usable. Okay. Then it would be considered a handgun. And I'm only allowed to, as a hunter, to have 2 handguns. Okay. Fun thing is, the short version was only available to hunters until I think 2 or 3 years ago. Now the short ones are also available to sports shooters. But
so just with a regular hunting license, you can get an AR platform.
Yeah. They are just about attempting to ban ARs and AKs. I also have an AK because they look like weapons of war. Yeah, they're scary. They look scary, and they have only been legal for I think 10 or 12 years now. Before that, they were forbidden because they looked like weapons of war. There was a law against that, and actually, the Green Party that is now trying to ban them again was back then the party that allowed them. Yeah. So
all right. Is there a reciprocity between European countries? Like if you want to go on a hunting trip outside of Germany, you can bring your stuff?
Oh, I can, yeah. There's the so-called European Firearms Passport. So where you can apply for. Well, it's nothing that you do not get if you're a lawful gun owner. It's just something you need to pay money for, and then you'll get a new document where you can put on 10 guns. Doesn't matter if handgun or rifles. or shotguns, whatever. And then you can travel to all European countries that are listed on this firearms passport. So, but regulations where entering the country, they are different from country to country. So, for instance, by going to Switzerland, where I go for training purposes, I don't need to stop at customs and say, "Hello, I'm entering your country with a gun." I just roll in and roll out again.
Can you fly with it?
You can fly with it even, but that's a nightmare.
I bet it's interesting for people in the States too. I've had friends leave, the good states and fly into non-good states, and people just cannot believe. I mean, we got hundreds of millions of guns in America, like millions of gun owners. It's so normal, but you still have a lot of people that just can't believe you would actually want to fly with it. And it's like, so you travel around a lot to instruct and participate in events and stuff. Okay. Exactly. So that's cool. So what is it like if you make extra stops on those trips? Do you have to be going to that event or to that hunt? Or let's say you want to divert somewhere, go visit a buddy or something, and you got your guns on you. I'm asking because the best example I can think of, like, let's say you're transporting a firearm through America that is illegal in a state. Mm-hmm. So like your AR would be illegal in California, but you could drive through California with that AR as long as you don't stop and stay there.
Okay.
So, stopping to eat, stuff like that, that's all fine. But you couldn't like go on a, vacation there. Like if you're driving through the state, you could bring legal freaking machine guns through there if you wanted to. So what is that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, in Germany, gun law is a federal law. So it's the same in all places in Germany, in the country. So, right. So, let's say if I'm traveling, if I have an invitation in let's say northern Germany, and I have to travel through half the country, of course I can visit family, I can visit friends. That's not a drama. I just need to take care that on the way or when I make a stop, that the guns are stored properly, that only I have access to, or people that also have the right and the ability to handle firearms have access to. So let's say if I go and see a friend who's also a hunter and who also has a safe where his guns are in, then that's cool because I can just put my gun in his safe, and he would be allowed to have access to that gun, because he also has the proper documentation, right? So,
do you have to keep your guns stored, right, in a safe?
Yeah.
And I've heard that you can have inspections. Is that true? Have you ever had somebody stop by your house and?
I never had. It would take 45 years with the current staffing of those. It's not a job. 45 years. Someone calculate that to inspect every gun owner in Germany, and just to check if the safe is right. And yeah.
So there'd have to be some suspicion.
No. They can come in. They can just come unannounced. You have to let them in then. And the funny thing is, in some states, they afterwards send you a cost note. Then you even have to pay for that. Yeah.
All right. So what about self-defense? Whether you're at home or you're on the go. Let's say we can do a hypothetical. Let's say you're pulling up to a McDonald's and there's an active shooter or some nut job with a machete.
Mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to step in and use your firearm?
Well, you would.
Or here's an even better one. This actually happened. The Bataclan shooting in Paris, where these guys used illegal AKs and shot up the whole concert hall.
Yep.
You're there. Are you allowed to get involved with that? If you want to.
Well, I mean, if I'm driving past on the way to a hunt, let's put it that way, with my equipment on me or in the boot of my car, right? Um, I think most self-defense laws would deem that as at least not as illegal if you survive it yourself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a host of problems that comes with it. I mean, Leos that would enter the scene would probably deem you a bad guy because no one else has guns in their minds, anyways, right? But that's a different story. I mean, the first example, let's say, driving up to a McDonald's, coming from a hunt, and then someone goes crazy, and I would make use of my hunting rifle or my sidearm in that instance. If the violence that I impose has the same level of that the bad guys that has the same level of danger to other people or to myself, well, then it's appropriate, right? So you can address a firearm with a firearm. You can address a knife with a firearm.
So it's got to be like proportional to the threat.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Like escalation of force. Okay, so what about in your home? Like a random dude breaking in with nothing. I bet you couldn't shoot him. But
no, of course, no. You have to ask him probably why he's doing that and if he had a bad childhood.
Offer him a pills.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about multiple guys where multiple guys could kill you for sure, right, with their bare hands?
Yes, they could, but then you have to ask them multiple questions about their childhood.
Okay, so it's got to be proportionate to the threat. All right.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, if you are, very few of those things happen in Germany, to be honest. At least they're not going. If they happen, they're not going through the media. Okay, let's put it that way. Yeah. But again, if you are, if this happens in your house, the windows are broken in, a couple of guys step into the room, in the moment when I'm just cleaning my firearm in front of the TV, and my wife and the two little children sleeping upstairs, let's say, there probably would be, or hopefully there would be some, would be a judge that say, well, yes, I would be peeing my pants as well in that situation, and I understand that you escalated accordingly. I wouldn't be sure about that.
Yeah, our system's kind of like that too. You have to decide if depending on where you are, if you want to risk your life or your family's life, or risk being wrongfully accused by a jury later on. So, in the States we have like self-protection insurance, to where if you do use your firearm, like if you're in most of these constitutional carry states, they're going to lean towards your favor because they're a little bit better. But let's say if you're in California, you have a legal firearm, you can actually get self-defense insurance. And I've looked at a couple of them. I think they cost maybe $300 a year or something. Okay. And if they win the case, you don't pay anything.
Okay.
During the case. And in America with our legal fees, that's a big deal. Imagine, think about Kyle Rittenhouse. He could not afford any of that, so they had to win that case. Is there anything like that in Germany? Like, I know you have to have a hunter's insurance, right?
Liability insurance, right? So liability insurance. So yeah, every hunter needs to have that insurance. It's not much. It's 60, 70, $80 per year. Insurance up to 5 or 10 million euros for bodily or for any kind of harm, be it personal, so bodily, or just a car you hit or so, right?
Whoops.
Whoopsie, whoopsie, yeah. So, or anything. I mean, but that covers everything that has to do with hunting. Also if you don't apply the handbrake of your hunting vehicle and it rolls down the hill and crashes into another car, and if that has something to do with the hunting, or that's also part of the hunting of the insurance, right? So the hunting insurance is more than just firearm damage.
Got it.
Okay.
So, I've been over here a while, and I know a lot of differing people. So most Germans I run into they seem to be pretty anti-gun, and a lot of I'll get the, what's with you guys and gun stuff. And so I usually just say freedom and move on. But some of the friends I have are very diverse. So like you're heavily involved in it and instruct and everything. And I had a group of some German friends I took out to my place last summer, and they freaking thought it was awesome. But the general opinion in Europe and in Germany seems to be kind of anti-gun. Like, what's your take on that?
I think people are afraid of things they don't know, right? And Germans don't know guns anymore.
Was hunting a lot bigger back in the day?
Hunting is getting bigger and bigger, which is a good thing. But the German gun laws are, let's say, quite young, because up to the 70s there were no restrictions at all, nothing. And then so it was just that with the beginning of a terrorist wave, that legislation changed. So,
okay. So like the red cells and some of that.
Okay. RAF.
Yeah.
So, gun laws were just you could mail order guns. There are still pictures of old prospectus out there where you could just order guns. Nothing. So it was just normal. And we had the Wehrpflicht. Wehrpflicht means mandatory military service, right? And which was unfortunately abolished in, I think, around 2010 or 2008.
Yeah,
so, something like that. So around 15 years ago. So knowledge about these kind of tools, how they work, and that they only work if you do this. For instance, that they only go bang if you do this, is kind of vanishing. Has been vanishing. Maybe also has been on purpose made vanish.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
and you got, Hollywood, people think your gun just goes off. You drop it and it shoots the whole magazine empty.
Yeah, and if you look at Switzerland, for instance, Switzerland, okay, it's a way smaller country. Smaller countries with smaller militaries, and it's not comparable to bigger countries with bigger militaries. But Switzerland has very, 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 very deep-rooted military tradition, and also a certain, I might even call it freedom tradition. Switzerland is a very, very tight-knit community, and community where people live very, very well, let's say, connected in the smaller villages, but also in the bigger villages and in the cities as well. And military service is, every male has to do the military service. Women can if they want to, and then they have to go to their exercises every year as well, where they meet the same people they made their basic training with, right? Again, let's say a little bit comparable to Israel. Well, Israel being, of course, a little bit different, but also a little bit similar. And shooting in Switzerland is completely normal. 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, they shoot competitions. Norway as well, Sweden as well. I think
They
even in
also
Denmark.
don't they also keep their service rifle at home?
Oh, they do, yeah.
Switzerland?
Yeah, for the SIG 551 or 552, I think. It's a heavy gun, but beautiful piece of machinery.
See,
Yeah, they do.
there's a lot of historians that will put that as one of the aspects why Switzerland was not messed with in World War I and II. I would think a lot of it is the terrain. It's extreme. I mean, you can't just go into Switzerland without crossing the Alps, you know.
No.
So a mobility corridor to get down there, and what would be your end goal anyway? But I would think that would also be part of it. Like, hey, every household is armed down there.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. It's and why I'm very fortunate that I can go to training to Switzerland, to being trained there, is that the Swiss, they have perfected their way of training. They have, so if someone would be, for whichever reason, be crazy enough to try to pull that stunt in Switzerland, right? Not only every household is armed, but they have perfected their way of instructing. So of making people able to do things in the least amount of time. So it's
like an efficient response to some kind of threat.
Yeah, well, but just with everything in regard of teaching. That's So that I think it all originated probably in the military. So they know. So if someone tries to attack us, we need to mobilize quickly and very efficiently, and to bring people to a certain level where they can do X, Y, Z. We need a perfect way of teaching and make people understand so that they function, right?
Yeah, see, that's awesome. I mean, you know, it used to be that way in America. There's a lot of shooting clubs and small organizations still out there, but you know, I remember my dad telling me about the Boy Scouts coming to school, and they had shooting competition teams related to the school, and you know, it was all a lot more normal. But I like the aspect of the small community. I think a major problem I think a major problem in America is the lack of community and the lack of parenting. So that all sounds like a pretty good deal. And that's also one reason why I still think Germany is relatively safe, especially out in the countryside.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
You got some drunk assholes doing stuff, but you don't have like the craziness we have. But you also see a lot of 2-parent families still, and the parents generally seem to be really good at being involved with their kids. You know, like almost every Sunday in my area, you see families out going for a walk. You don't see that in America. You see,
Really?
you see extremely fit couples that are working out nonstop all day. And then you see a lot of people doing absolutely nothing but like all the stuff I've seen over here with like families and being involved in what your kids are doing. That's I think that's like a major contributor. You know, we have a major mental health problem in America, and so crazy people are going to do crazy things. It doesn't matter what tool they use.
I completely agree. I mean, we know that it's that these things by themselves, they are just brass knuckles, right? So they don't go bang by themselves. So but what we also have in Germany, we have stricter drug laws, right? So, or prescription, stuff you, for instance, as you're talking about mental health, stuff you get prescribed in the US, as far as I know, those things doctors wouldn't be able to prescribe here.
Oh yeah,
normal prescriptions.
Yeah,
we have a 2-stage system. We have doctors can prescribe drugs up to a certain level. But this certain level is, well, opioids are not part of this level. So to get a prescription for opioid, that's another level. That's a different prescription, and not every doctor can just prescribe it, right?
Right.
So,
And they try to take a more natural approach before drugs.
yes,
Like
yes,
trying to
yes,
get pain
yeah.
pills in Germany, like for my American friends listening that don't get this, like if you wanted to get ibuprofen 800 in Germany, you're talking about layers of bureaucracy and red tape. You know, it's like you're lucky to get ibuprofen at all from a German doctor, but it's going to be like 200, and it's going
Yes,
to be a very limited amount.
yeah, you can buy the 200s. I think you can even buy the 400s, but from 600s on, you need a prescription, and for the
Yeah.
800, you need a very good reason.
You need to be dying. Yeah.
Yeah, and everything above ibuprofen, for instance, is I think it's a pink slip. It's a pink prescription slip. Yeah, because I had a surgery once. It was pretty much almost 10 years ago, and this doctor, he prescribed me this very this strong stuff, and he put it on the wrong form. And then in the pharmacy, they sent me straight back and said, well, we can't give you this stuff on a normal recipe, right? A prescription. So, yeah.
In America, you yell at the manager and throw a tantrum, and they give it to you. Yeah, we have a major problem with psychotropic drugs. Like I last I kept up with it, pretty much all our mass shootings and people just flipping out over there were on something. And that's a major problem. But it's kind of like with guns. You can't just ban the stuff. I mean, it would help if doctors could not just throw it out there. It's like me as a veteran, it's a really bad community. You have a lot of veterans that get just addicted to stuff. And it's whether from being blown up and when they were treated in the hospital, they had some extreme stuff that they couldn't get off of, or just dealing with depression and just chronic pain all day. And like the VA doctors, they just hand stuff to you. I think I showed you some of my stuff.
Yeah.
Last time you visited, and I've had that stuff for years. That's how rarely I use it. But you know, there's a lot of veterans, they go get that stuff and they use it like crazy. And it's, you know, what do you do? Like, you can't blame the guy. He's addicted. No. It's hard to get away from that. And if his doctor has some ethics and turns him down, he'll just go find another doctor. You know, there's always going to be one that'll give you what you want.
Yeah, I mean, drugs are one way of treating things, but drugs only reduce symptoms, but not the cause, right?
Right.
So I rarely take any medication. So if I have a headache, for instance, and yeah, I try to locate where it comes from my body, probably from a tense neck or my lower back or whatever, and that's the root, that's the cause, and I try to eliminate that instead of taking drugs. And the same, I mean, is for people with psychological trauma. Drugs are not the solution, but it's probably a whole different conversation.
Yeah. So back to guns.
Yeah.
Let's say I want to get a gun as soon as possible. What's my course of action, and what's my timeline and money looking like?
Well, that's the thing. So as a sports shooter, when you take the safety course with me and pass the exam, you need to be member of a sports shooting club for at least 12 months. And you need to prove that you're serious about sports shooting by having attended training 18 times in 12 months. So every 3 weeks, more or less.
What is considered training? Just showing up, paying, and shooting? Or is there like a strict, hours? How do they measure it?
Well, you show up, you register, you get your gun from the club and the ammo, and whatever. If you do 20 yards bullseye shooting or whatever it is, whatever floats your boat, right? And
So, sorry. I don't want to forget this. So, any
yeah,
German could basically show up to these shooting clubs and do that, right? Just show up and say they want to shoot.
well, they are just trying. They are just trying to ban that. Yes.
But for now, most people can just come to a shooting club and say, "Hey, I want to shoot some rounds," like our gun
Yes.
ranges.
Yeah. Yes. Most clubs offer that opportunity, but they are not. They don't have to, right? They also can just say, well, there's a private club. Go f yourself and go somewhere else. Go. So
Yeah,
that,
I wanted to bring that up because there's a lot of Germans that don't know you can just go to a gun range or a gun club and start. All right, so 18 training sessions in a year.
Yep.
And that's before you can actually take the test.
No. You can take the test. No, that's you can take the test on day one.
And
Entering the club.
what is the test? Is this like safety or
It's
laws?
it's a yeah, it's 40 questions, 20 multiple choice, 20 written. And it's yeah, about the whole gun law stuff, and also a lot also about where you have to know the different types of firearms, different types of ammo. You need to know what's allowed and what's prohibited. Um, yeah, yeah, rules, regulations mostly, doesn't it? So it's not a training. It's a let's say a knowledge test, right? You also have to show basic handling and that you can hit the paper from whatever 10 yards or 15 yards as a practical test. Yeah, and then but in order to apply for your own firearms license, that's only just that's one part of the puzzle. Second part would be you would have to be part of a club, a member of a club for 12 months, and prove that you attended training 18 times. You need to be at least 18 years. From 18 to 21, you can only procure rimfire guns, right?
Okay.
And if you wanna shoot anything bigger than 22, or if you want to own anything bigger than 22, and you're not 25 yet, you need to take a psychological test that you have to pay for. Yeah, as a hunter, it's different, by the way. It's crazy. It's almost like discrimination between sports shooters and hunters, to be honest.
Yeah, because you as a hunter, you can go out on a revere, like hunting grounds you're
Yep.
part of, and you can walk around with your guns. But the sports shooter guys, they can only go to an event or where they're shooting, right?
Yep,
They can't just walk around the woods with their guns.
No, because they have no reason to.
Right.
Because they're not allowed to shoot there anyway. So why would they be allowed to run around there with their guns?
Yeah. So,
that's logic behind that. So,
yeah, it makes sense. So, in about a year, if you keep up with all this, you could get your license and get a firearm.
Exactly. So let's say you are older than 25, so you have no limitations in terms of caliber or so. So you need to you need this exam. You need the membership and the proof of training. You need, let's say, the minimum age. You need to prove the safe that you have. So you have to buy it before, right, and show the invoice and show the classification. So there are only two classifications that are admitted to store guns. You need, they will check your record, of course.
Like a background check?
background check. Yes, and they want to introduce mandatory psychological screening as well with this new law they're trying to pass right now. Yeah, that's basically it. And you need to have a clean record, and you need to be, I don't know how to say. Let's say personally fit. Let's say if you have a DUI entry somewhere. I mean, this is not a criminal record, right? But if you have a DUI, driving under influence, or any drug-related stuff, and that shows up in their screening, they would say that's a no-no as well.
All right. So we got at least 18 times going to the shooting club.
Yep.
We got your test. We got your license, applying for it. We got your safe. And then you need to eventually go buy your gun and ammo. What kind of price tag are we looking at for all of this? Is there a fee to apply for your license?
Yes, but that's not high. That's just let's say $50 or so.
Yeah. See, one thing I like about Germany is prices on stuff. It's insane. Like you talked about the hunter's insurance. That's dirt cheap. If that was mandatory in America, it would cost $5,000 a year.
Really?
Easily. Yeah. Yeah. Our insurance is a joke. And you still don't get anything from it. Okay. And then we have in the non-constitutional states, we have concealed carry permits. And so basically they don't want people to have guns at all. So it sounds kind of similar to Germany. You have to prove a reason to exercise your Second Amendment right, at least what we have. And the way they limit people doing that is extreme bureaucracy. So your license, they can sit on your license for years if they just don't like you or whatever. And it costs a ton of money just to apply. You have to go do like these kind of similar. You have to do mandatory training and all that. And so it all sounds good on paper. It's like, okay, good, but it ends up hurting a lot of the people who need the guns the most.
I'm sure, yeah.
So just as an example with the minority and race issues in America, the insane gun bureaucracy in these occupied territories, it hurts minorities the most. It hurts low income people the most because, we're talking about thousands of dollars to get a license, and all the red tape and stuff. Like, so the people who claim to want to protect certain groups of people in America, they kind of hurt their right to self-defense the most. And that's what's kind of dirty about this. I want to get into some questions. I see some questions popping up in here. But I wanted to go over, so that was the sport shooting license. And is that the one you call the Waffenschein?
No. This is what's called the Waffenbesitzkarte. So, guns ownership license. A Waffenschein is what a private security company would be issued that gives the right to carry outside of your home or your business, or a shooting range. So the Waffenschein is to carry a gun.
Okay, got it. All right, so what is the process for the hunter look like, just for people to hear that side of it? Because it sounds like that it might be the more free way to go, the more, it sounds like you have more freedom that way, doing it the hunter way.
Well, you have more freedom, yes, you do. And I mean, hunting is a different story. So I'm 45 now. I've had my hunting license for 29 years. So more than half of my life I've spent hunting, right? The whole firearm stuff is only a very, very small portion of the whole hunting license, right? So to pass the hunting license exam, yes, firearm safety and also a shooting test, shooting with a shotgun, let's say on clay pigeons, and of course with the rifle, with the scope on a deer silhouette, it's only just one part. So the hunting license exam, the shooting and gun handling is 2 things out of, I think, nine subjects that you need to pass. Right? You need to pass, well, game animal biology. You need to know about all the illnesses they can have. You need to know about dogs. You need to know all about all the dogs' illnesses. You need to know every tree, bush, and piece of grass that you can encounter in our countryside. You need to know all the times where you can hunt the animals. You need to know all the mating times and when they shed and blah blah blah. And these are so what you do is you do a preparation course for the hunting license, and well, they vary. I don't know what the price tag is on that. Maybe let's say $2,000, $2,000 upwards. Okay, $2,000 upwards, and for the preparation course, and then for the whole hunting exam, I think maybe it's another $200 or maybe 300. Yeah, and it's a lot of stuff that you need to study beside the whole firearm topic.
Yeah, it's the whole conservation side of it.
Exactly.
It sounds like in the States that's usually been a stewardship thing, like passed down from their fathers to their sons, and it was a family tradition. And it sounds like I'm sure that was in Germany too. I mean, the weapons we used in our revolution were basically German weapons, and we just did the rifling. So it sounds like you guys took the stewardship part and just implemented it, just put it into the government side to where it's now a force thing. And I guess there's many arguments to that, but that's also kind of a problem in the States, is stewardship between fathers and sons and family traditions. Like, if the dad is not going to do it, teach his son about conservation, because you don't want, most hunters I know in the States, they're not like the Hollywood rednecks that just run around poaching, shooting everything. Most of them truly care about everything. And there's like a whole discussion on that. But, when you lose that stewardship in the family, like traditions and stuff, where else are you going to get it from besides your government? So it kind of sounds like you guys just took it and put it in on paper. Cause, like I've told you before, I have a buddy that is a hunter, and he's told me about some of the stuff you learned, and it's all good stuff you should know. You should know about the animals and the ecology and everything involved. And we have a tag system in America, so you learn the seasons based on when you can get the tag. You just go on Google, when can I shoot this animal, pretty much, and then you'll go get your tag for that season. And of course, you have some animals that are always in season, depending on where you are. But you just go pay for your tag, and that's it. And they basically depend on that stewardship, because you're pretty much on your own. So yeah, we're how much time do you have? Did you want to? Yeah. Okay, cool. Because we're getting into some good stuff, and I see some good questions. Like I wanted to talk about this too. In America, they're talking about passing these red flag laws, and it's basically, you talked about psych evaluations for getting your weapons license. That's a feel good thing. It sounds really good. You want people to be vetted before they walk around with a firearm. We have a driver's licensing system in America. There's some things in America that's a lot less free than in Germany, like drinking, stuff like that.
Funnily, yeah.
I can, if I go into a bar, I can bring my kid in there. It's no big deal. That's pretty cool. It's not like my kid's drinking. But with the red flag laws, a lot of people think that's a good idea in America, but the problem is, who decides if you are a threat or not? So psychology is, people think it's a direct science, but it's like an art science mixture. A human is going to make that call, that determination.
Exactly.
So, like in the States, a combat veteran like me with PTSD on paper, one day the federal government could say, I'm not allowed to own a firearm
Yep.
just for that thing.
Yep.
So do you think that comes into play in Germany with the psych evaluation? So let's say you go in there with a Make Germany Great Again t-shirt, and the psychologist deems you to be right wing. Do you think there's some political or bias in that decision in your psych evaluation? Or possible? I mean, but just general thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I have a clear opinion on that. I find that very, very dangerous, because it gives too much power to certain individuals, and this threat exists, yes, and that's probably, it's more likely that it will happen if you give someone the opportunity to exercise that power, and to misuse it for political reasons. Yes, so
like deciding if you're a threat or not.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's easy, right? Because someone else could just say, "Well, hey, I'm just doing my job. I'm just here." It's written that if you express this or that opinion, then it clearly says you're a threat, right? So the dangerous thing is that's pretty much exactly what they are planning at the moment. So not in regard of political views, of course, they don't phrase it like that. But they want, so doctors, they have to keep the secrets about the patients, right? So, but what they want to do is, for gun owners, there won't be no secrets anymore, right? So let's say I have a fight with my wife. I'm going to a therapist because I'm trying to better my life. This then automatically would be reported that I'm seeing a therapist, and from that they could make, hey, this guy has problems.
That's exactly what our red flag laws would encompass.
So, yeah, that's what they try to do. That's what in this proposal that's being discussed right now is in. So that's I think it's very dangerous. Yeah.
And so think about the after effects with men going to get help. We already have men that refuse to go get help. So it sounds like it could work the same for you. If you know that's coming down, that you might have your rights taken away because of whatever. You're going to therapy, trying to improve yourself. That's exactly the same like me. If I find out, I can't have my Second Amendment right because of like a PTSD rating. How willing am I to go to help after that?
I agree.
Because I know a lot of combat vets that do need the help. They need all the help they can get. And they're just straight up, past these red flag laws, I will never see another counselor ever again. So what is that going to do to our mental health problem? And what
absolutely.
Is it going to do to violence? Because if you want to, you can get a gun pretty much anywhere you are. So yeah, that's just a really bad. And then again, who makes the call that you're not fit? Because depending on where you are in the States, if you like didn't want to wear a mask or get the shot, you could be deemed like crazy or mentally unfit, and so boom, there goes your gun rights, because they get to say that you're mentally unfit.
Exactly.
It's scary stuff.
It's not these red flag laws, or this whole concept is not going to make the world a better place. Definitely not. The opposite's the case. So we have 2.2 million legal gun owners in Germany, right? So suddenly,
out of about 80 million, population's about 80 million. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that's roughly 2.3%, right? Yeah.
We got to up those numbers, dude. I want 50% by the end of next year.
Yeah, I'm on it. So yeah, so and of these 2.2, I mean, they are the most vetted people in the country, right? The only people that are vetted more than or checked more than legal gun owners are pilots.
Okay.
A legal gun owner in Germany is checked more than any politician, any judge, any Leo.
Really?
Yeah. So, and all of those three that I just mentioned, they can have things in their records without a problem, but not a legal gun owner.
Yeah. That's
No.
about right.
So a judge with a drunk driving conviction, it's not a problem. He still stays a judge. Politician the same. Politician can have record of whatever. It doesn't matter. He still stays a politician, a lawmaker. Even with members of the law enforcement agencies, they are not as strongly vetted as legal private gun owners, and they are carrying a gun then on duty. So yeah.
All right.
Funny.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I think we covered a pretty good amount of stuff. So we were talking before this about you kind of made a conversion in one of our circles. We got somebody that's very interested, and it was put to me like, I want his number because I want a gun. Because they have certain fears. So let's say you're sitting around a table of some greeny Germans that absolutely, well, we won't say they hate guns, but just don't understand it. How would you approach that if they were just like, sell us on guns and the right to own guns? Like, what would be your thoughts? What would be your argument to either educate people, get them interested in it, whatever?
Mm. Well, it's really different than in the US, right? In the US, you would argue with self-defense, mostly with a right to self-defense. I mean, all this here is a complete alien topic to people, right? People here, they don't think about self-defense, right? So, and in terms of guns, or firearms, I would first try to educate people on all the big BS that Hollywood is selling, right? So guns. So first of all, that guns don't just fire because some fairy dust came along, right? So right. So they are not more dangerous than a chainsaw, because if they are just laying there on the table or in the safe, they're just a piece of plastic, in case of my Austrian favorite, piece of plastic and metal. So I really would have to start at the beginning of the universe, at really ground zero. So it's a tool. It's a tool made for things, made to destroy and kill. Okay, so yes, but that's just it. It doesn't sound romantic. But that's what a bow was made for as well, or a crossbow, or a spear.
Well, tools can be misused too. Like, cars are meant to drive, but a lot of people die. A lot of people use those to murder people.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, more people are being killed by hammers, like hatchets or screwdrivers.
Yeah,
even than knives.
I heard about that.
Right?
Yeah,
right. So, yeah. So, I mean, I would try to leave every emotional argument, like self-defense is more is an emotional argument most times, right? So I would really try to argue as logical as possible, that it's just a tool, and as a car, as is a chainsaw, as is a hammer, and it only becomes a weapon when by its user. So
Yeah, that's that's pretty much what a lot of people don't realize. But when you described having a gun and reasons, there's a major component that Americans stick by because it's also in our Constitution, but it's also our right to equip ourselves and be prepared to overthrow a tyrannical government, pretty much, because that's when our Constitution was written. We had to basically what Ukraine had to go through for months. They had to issue out guns to everybody they could at the last minute. That's what we went through when our Constitution was written. So that's why it was written into it. So like we don't have to deal with that ever again. So let's talk about the elephant in the room with that. With Germany's history. So I know America, the West, basically helped rebuild Germany, Western Germany. And from what I learned, we were kind of involved in rewriting some German law and also contributing to the Constitution. So I never understood with Germans' history during those times why we did not say, hey, you might want to put a Second Amendment in here.
It's a good question. It's a good question.
Yeah. So like when you're talking to people here, I mean, you know, sometimes if people are just outright attacking me over here about the stuff and, you know, just labeling me and all that, I will use that historical example, you know, just to get them to shut up. But there's got to be a civil way or a logical way to explain that to people, like with that history, you know, like and I mean, there's a lot of stuff Americans have complied with in the last couple of years that shows that if the Gestapo showed up at Americans' doors, a lot of them would comply too, whether they have a gun in their house or not. But you know what I mean? So
yeah,
what's the argument there with the history? Like if would everybody in Germany being armed, would that have changed things? Or you know, I mean, or is there an argument at all there?
It's a good question. It's not I've never heard that discussion, to be honest.
Really?
I think it is an interesting discussion, and I wish I would have had that at school, for instance. But I don't know when this narrative came up that guns are just pure evil by itself, right?
So it's just usually guns are bad.
Yeah.
No.
It's funny. It's funny. I mean, of course, I'm living in my firearms bubble, right? I have been probably for most of my life, and like where was that? It was, I think, when we went to the pediatric, and then the doctor asked me what I was doing for a living, and I just said that, and I could see on the reaction on her face that was, I think it was disgust. Myself, hey, what's wrong with you, right? But I find that angle that you opened, and with regard to German history, really interesting. Nobody ever opened that channel.
That's strange that it's, I mean, you know, it's a sensitive topic. If you just start yelling at somebody about the Holocaust, that's no way to have a discussion. That pretty much shuts them down. That's just like when people start labeling us racist and bigots and all that. We just, all right, I can't talk to you. But so, you know, Jordan Peterson, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So he calls out most people these days, and he's like, you guys all act like you would have stood against all that stuff back then, but most of you would have complied like everybody else.
Yep.
I think the thing that would change it is, so, you know, the brown shirts and black shirts and some of these secret guys rolling up people in their houses in the middle of the night, making them disappear. In America, it would be like uniformed federal agents with flashing lights and stuff. So I can only imagine, even me personally, if I'm out at my cabin if a car rolls up and it ain't clearly marked and the people aren't clearly marked, they're getting shot. I don't care what they tell me, you know. So that's the only scenario I could think of that would definitely change things. Like, and on the Russian side too, you know, you had the Ustazi was what was the KGB, and they're secret guys. They're just rolling people up at night. You talk shit about Stalin or whoever's in your area, and you just disappear that night. If those people were armed and just some random guys come into your house at night, would have been getting blasted? You know?
I mean, you know, it's being armed and being armed and being able to fight. It's two different things.
Yeah.
Right. Only because you have a firearm, it doesn't mean you're being armed. That's what Jeff Cooper said. Right. And there's a lot of truth to that. But not even having the possibility just makes the whole discussion obsolete. So that's I mean, at least having the possibility to do it, and this is what your Second Amendment guarantees, right? At least you would have the possibility, or you would have possibilities that millions of people, and I'm not only talking about the people that died under the German regime, but I mean it's a multiple of what died under the German regime that died under the Russian regime, right?
Yeah.
Only few people talk about that nowadays still.
Those numbers don't count, though.
Those numbers don't count.
No.
Yeah, right. And other despots in other countries. I mean, and over the centuries as well.
Even in modern times, most places in Africa, personal gun ownership is legal, sure, and there's people with freaking 50 cal machine guns driving around through the neighborhoods, but the average person can't defend their own home.
Yeah, that's right. So I think a lot of Western countries, and probably all Western countries except the US, because you have that Second Amendment and at least this tiny seed of this thought process that, well, at least when you have, at least you can decide if you use that possibility to go down with a fight or not. In all other countries, in all other Western countries, you don't even have that possibility. You will just go down. You don't even have the possibility to decide, well, I want to go. If I go out on my terms, right? So being rounded up at night by people that with clear fire superiority, you just go with them and pray for the best, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So in the most Western countries where we live so prosperous and safe for the past decades, this whole thought of bad things being able to happen, I think it's just not on their radar. And that's not only about what, let's say, bad governments or that suddenly turn against you. It's a consciousness issue, awareness issue, even in daily life. People just don't expect bad things to happen anymore because it only happens to other people, right? It's one big topic.
It's funny you mention that because it's strange that even though our news, especially in America, is full of doom and gloom, and you're all going to die, this is going to kill you tomorrow, this is going to kill us next week, everybody's dying here. It is funny that most people still live in that safety bubble.
Yeah, because bad things only happen to other people, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Bad things only happen to other people.
So I'm going to shut my trap, and I'll let you hit these up. Try to be rapid fire. So, is there a limit to ammo storage in Germany?
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
So you can have
Powder, yes. Only can have 3 kilos in my house. But ammo, no.
wow. So you said you can have 2 pistols. Is there a limit on rifles you can have? You can own.
As a hunter, no.
So you could have 1,000 rounds for each gun.
Yeah.
If you wanted to.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Do you? if you want to disclose that, or are you ready? If Russia makes their way over here, can I come visit you and get loaded up, or do we need to go shopping? That's my question.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions, man. So I'll try to find. Let's see. Yeah. Of course, we got the political stuff. It's always part of it. All right, so here's we were talking about the history. Can you read that, or you want me to read it for you?
No, can you read it? I can't see it.
Yeah, you're on your phone. So Germany's history is like American history. Sometimes they picked a bad leader. That's all. You don't follow the bad leaders. Yeah, that's kind of what I was leading to. Like, people on the Russians and the Germans back then were sold on their side. That's the thing. And people see that American school sucks, because I had to go find all this stuff out on my own that, we'll just stick with Germany. But, Hitler was a direct effect of World War I and the outcome of that. And so Germans were absolutely just, in terrible conditions through that. And then you had the Weimar Republic going corrupt and falling apart. And so you had a leader emerge that was a good talker and strong. And once he got in charge of stuff, started making shit happen, like really started to do things for Germany. So would you even resist that system back then? Because for you as a German, it's going pretty well. It's like,
yes, exactly.
Why resist? And when inflation has dropped down, you got a job, unemployment's low, your country's being proud. It's like you're engineering stuff again. Like, would you even resist? And would there even be a reason?
So I mean, after Germany was pretty much raped after World War One, right? So people were desperate, but of course also they were desperate. They were hurt. Being treated the way they were from the outside world, right? And they were just sick of it. And then someone came along and they danced to his tune, and he just hit the right notes on the keyboard. Let's put it that way, right? So I think, I don't know. I mean, who can really say, yes, of course, I would have been the resistance? Come on. In that situation, right? In that situation, I mean, you're unemployed, recession, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
I think it's similar to our FDR. A lot of our welfare nanny state from the federal government came out of those times. Roosevelt, and it was basically all just promises. Hey, the government will fix everything for you, which I don't understand how it happened in the 30s. It had to have been the Depression. So all the post-World War I stuff helped Europe find these new leaders and new ways to do things. And we had our Depression in America. So it was very easy. When you have a crisis, it's easy to get people to do what you want.
Of course, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? I don't know who said that, but it was some famous politician.
I like Reagan's, where that's the most terrifying words ever. I'm from the government and I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
So here's another question. What about unregistered World War II? They say sidearms, but I'm curious about any unregistered World War II weapon. OPA didn't register them, and I'm wondering what the consequences would be. That sounds like a legit personal question. You should have said asking for a friend. Yeah, so I have a couple buddies that do have some of OPA's old guns. How's that work?
So, well, if you, for whichever reason, get a visit by a federal agency or so at your home, checking your plumbing or what, I don't know, and these guns come up and you don't have a license for them, and they will report, hey, look, we found this and that, or we saw this and that, and then it goes through the system and they find out that, well, this person did not have a license for them. I mean, it's a felony, right? So,
what does that mean in Germany if you have an unregistered weapon? Like big jail time, a big fine?
Fine, definitely, and then depending on what it is, honestly, if it was OPA's, so grandfather's World War II thing that was hidden in the basement and you just found it and didn't report it, you probably would not go to jail for it. Well, I don't know in the current political climate, but because rulings in courts always have to do with the political climate, right? So yeah, you probably wouldn't go away for. You wouldn't spend time, I guess, if you have a clear record. But it's a felony, so after it, you would have a record.
And so you wouldn't be able to get a license after that?
Oh, yes. Well, no, definitely not, for 10 years.
Oh, there's a limit to that.
Exactly. So if you have, so depending on your record, you will be banned from the whole firearms thing for 5 or 10 years. So if you went to jail for at least 12 months, or whatever, it's no firearms for 10 years.
Wow, I think a felony firearms possession in America, I think that means bye-bye weapons ownership forever.
Okay.
I believe so. Yeah, because you can't be a felon. You can't have a felony record. That'll show up. Well, I mean, it'll show up in your background check, but you can. And in some of these areas, people don't even bother making legal gun sales anymore. It's ridiculous. Now you got like the ghost guns. People are printing them, so it's almost like they're trying to ban us into going more underground and doing whatever we want. Have you heard about the ATF's recent thing with the SBRs and the
yes
stocks? Yeah. So does Germany have like a version of that, an ATF, or is it just some department in the federal government?
Yeah, we just have a gun law that is just the craziest thing, to be honest. It's so complicated, and they're making it more complicated, and pretty much impossible to enforce, because there's just not enough personnel. It was not a joke when I said it would take 45 years to control the safes of every gun owner in Germany, because they are just understaffed, right? And now they want to put even more regulations on them that they have to enforce, and that will. I think they are just trying to freeze the system so that nobody. It's probably still possible to get a gun. The whole process is so overloaded, crowded, and that it'll take ages. And people just start playing darts also instead of pursuing their interest for firearms. I think there might be a method to the madness.
Yeah. See. Oh, you still hear me?
Yep.
All right. My microphone just dipped for whatever reason, but I got a question for you. So down here on the bottom, do you use muzzle loaders there?
In sport shooting clubs, yes, but muzzle loaders, they don't exert the energy needed, required by law for hunting, for instance. So so we have certain energy requirements for the bullets if we want to go hunting, and muzzleloaders clearly do not reach those limits.
Yeah, see, that's interesting. That they actually kind of control what you're allowed to shoot. So let's talk about that real quick. What you can shoot animals with, but first, is there a grain? So I know you have to shoot a certain animal with a certain type of round, with a certain type of velocity. So on the other side, just the amount of grains you can buy in a bullet. Are there any kind of limits on that? Like my example in California is like half the ammo I would own would be illegal there because it would be too high, too heavy of a round.
No.
There's no limit.
No, you can. I mean, you can legally own a 50 cal, but I mean it's not useful for hunting, right? I shot 50 cal 5 times, and yeah, I did it, and bucket list, but that's not good for anything. So for shooting a roe deer, it needs to be at least 5.56 caliber, and needs to have a certain energy on 100 meters. And to shoot anything that's bigger than that needs to be 6.5 millimeters. So that means 0.264 inches, and pretty much double the energy of the 5.56 at 100 meters, 2,000 joule. So these are the requirements. So if it's a 6.5 Creedmoor, it's a 6.5 Swedish. If it's a 300 Win Mag or 30-06 or 308, 338 Win Mag, which is totally overkill here anyways. Everything bigger than a 308 is overkill here.
Yeah, okay, so that's kind of the point of all that. You need enough velocity and weight to ethically drop the animal, but also not to just shred the thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Because then you're wasting meat too.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I mean, honestly, we have, as a hunters, as conservatives, we have that responsibility. So,
right, yeah. So, I gotta ask, what do you think about Ted Nugent? You know who he is?
Nope. What's that?
No go, dude. If you're Ted Nugent.
Huh?
Okay, yeah, no, you can look him up, man. You should. So he was a big famous rock star. The guy that shot the bow and arrow, flaming arrow on stage. I can't believe you don't at least know his music. But he is a huge conservationist in America and overall gun rights guy. I'll send you. He was on Joe Rogan. That's one of his best recent things. I'll send that to you because I think he's the perfect example of what I mentioned about stewardship, like passing on the trade and all this craft stuff you're talking about with it. He's big on that. He's got the money to put in all these efforts and hunting clubs and all that, but he's just a big proponent of doing things the right way. He's also pretty hilarious about his politics too. So, okay. So can you guys have hollow point ammo?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I mean, for hunting, obviously we need to have hunting bullets. And for handgun, hollow points were forbidden and have been legal since 2000, I think.
So, in a lot of states in America, you can actually get a special license to have machine guns. Is that possible here? Like, could you get full auto, total? So only the military and police?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we've talked about this personally, but the military over here is kind of seeing some drops in standards and intelligence. So it's good to know that they can have the machine guns, but you can't.
Well, I mean, you've gone through way more training than I have, but I mean, I don't think that a full auto really is necessary to do the job, right?
Well, it's just sexy, dude. I mean, yeah, you're not going to hunt a deer. I mean, you'll hit the pigs when they're running. You might have a better chance, but you'll just hit it in the foot, you know. But the full auto thing in America, it's just, you know, it's the sexy thing to have. If you come out to my place, whether for fun or for the Sear Challenge, I'm taking you to one of the ranges, and they have a German World War II MP42. So we can, they got the old American 30 cal machine gun. They got 50 cals. We can have some fun.
The only reason why I would want to have a full auto is, or anything is just because I'm not a big fan of any kind of restrictions. Whether I would use it, I mean, I wouldn't have any application for it, right? Even in a defensive encounter, the precise single shot, a quick single shots is probably way more effective than a mag dump, right? Collateral. Thinking about collateral damage, right?
Yeah.
So
I could just imagine sitting outside on my balcony and hearing 30 rounds freaking being dumped down the street in Germany. Like, what is good? That's when you know shit's hitting the fan, when you hear a full auto.
Yeah. Well, there's this guy, by the way. I think it's Mil-Spec Mojo or so. When he's running semi-auto single shot, but you would think it's full auto, by the way. So it's all about skill.
All right. So last question: can you reload your own rounds here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of checks to that? Like,
yes, of course. Special permit because it touches the explosives law, right? Because powder is an explosive, so that's regulated. So you need to take a course and an exam, and then you get a license that's valid for 5 years. I need to renew my license this year, so every 5 years you need to renew it. Otherwise, if you don't renew it on time, you have to take the whole course again and the exam again. So that's.
Ooh.
So I have a reminder. I have a reminder on my phone.
Is that the same one that where you can do like the muskets where powder for muskets and all that?
Right. Yes, I have the license for musket powder and for nitro powder.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's two different licenses, and yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you know, that's the thing I learned. Germans in their certificates and licenses. Like, you need a beruf for everything, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, I mean, I can in my house or in the house where I live, I can store legally. I can store 1 kilo of black powder. I mean, black powder is freaking dangerous. 3 kilos of nitro powder. Nitro powder is it's very stable. It burns at a very slow rate at normal pressure. And if I put it in the garage, it's 3 kilos black powder and 5 kilos of nitro powder. Yeah, that's what I would be allowed to store, right? So either 3 kilos of black powder or 5 kilos of nitro powder in the garage in a building that is not inhabited. Yeah.
All right. I'm pretty sure if you just went and bought that amount in America, you'd be on some list. I don't think there's limits on that. I guess of course it depends on the state, but you're definitely going to be getting put on watch list if you're buying all that stuff. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, look, with a kilo powder, I can make 400 rounds, let's say, of 6.5 Creedmoor. Let's put it that way. Yeah, 400 rounds. I mean, 400 rounds is not for someone who's shooting regularly and actively. 400 rounds is nothing, right? So
yeah, that's
3 kilos. Let's say 1,200, 1,300 rounds. That doesn't raise an eyebrow, because I can buy just 10,000 rounds with nobody raising an eyebrow.
So do you need that special explosive license to go buy that powder?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about the loader? The loader. Do you need the license to buy that too?
No. That's just a tool. That's just a tool, right? I can buy the bullets, I can buy the primers, but I can't. But for the powder, I need the license. Something is in some other neighboring European countries, it's vice versa, right? You can buy the powder freely, and you need the license for the primer. So if you're not completely stupid, you go to one country, buy the free stuff there, and then you go to the other country, buy what's free there, and that's it. Life hack.
Can you buy ammo in any country in Europe?
No. I can only buy ammo in Germany.
Oh, okay. So if you were near like the French border and went to like a decathlon over there, you couldn't get ammo there.
No.
Wow, that's good to know.
No, because I mean, because in France, French gun law applies, right? So my German license isn't worth anything there.
Okay, so you couldn't even buy a gun there.
No.
Wow. Okay. It's really strange understanding the relationship. You know, a lot of Americans view the European Union from the perspective of being like an overarching federal government, like ours versus our states. So we got our federal government, and then we have our states. A lot of Americans view the EU as being like the main top-down, which it kind of is, but it doesn't really work that way though, because it sounds like, you know, because with my Mississippi license, I can buy any Mississippi legal gun basically anywhere except for California, I think.
Okay.
But so that's one of those instances where it doesn't work that way.
Well,
because a lot of European states or countries are kind of like would be the size of some of our states.
Yeah, absolutely. But they are still independent countries, right? We just have this unelected body called EU, which somehow is making rules and stuff that on certain topics trumps local law, yes, but we are not there yet that everything they say in Brussels must be done in all the other countries, right? So German gun law, like German traffic law or German building law, that's what happens in Germany. It doesn't have any applications or any effects in Austria or in Switzerland. So let's say if I go to France or if I go to Switzerland, and I don't know what kind of documentation I need to have in Switzerland to buy a gun or ammo in Switzerland. I don't know. Maybe you just need to be 18 years of age. Well, of course, then I could buy ammo in Switzerland, right? But if I want to take it over the border, I mean, that's an international, it's a true border, right? So I can't just bring regulated stuff from one country where it's maybe not regulated into a legal area where it is regulated, right? Without having the proper import papers and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah. In France, French law applies. In Switzerland, Swiss law applies. In Germany, German law applies. So,
I mean, you know, that is really cool that countries still get to kind of operate independently. But sometimes I wish Germany would tell the EU to fuck off more. Like,
yeah, so do I.
I learned that a long time ago. Without Germany, the EU would be bust. So Germany has a lot of leg to stand on with that, but for some reason they don't. You guys need a Trump, man. You need a Trump to come over here and tell the EU to suck it. You know, a lot of people over here, they get mad when I say that, but after we've had a couple beers together, we go outside to have a smoke. That's when they'll be like, yeah, we need some strong leaders, you know. That's how it is. Yeah, so I'm good, man. If you got any final thoughts, it's all yours, and then we'll wrap it up and get out of here.
Well, man, thanks for having me, and thanks to all the viewers for showing that interest in this topic and how things are here in Germany. So yeah, I hope it was interesting for you. And thanks, Randall, for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I'll keep you on after we shut the live part off just to chat for a minute. But do you want to plug any of your pages? I know you're kicking around getting a YouTube going, which will
I'm a little bit delayed on my YouTube. On my YouTube, I'm on Instagram _Christian_Bender _ that's my Instagram. And I'm publishing publishing gun stuff, tips on how to become a better shooter, safer shooter, but also some mindset stuff. Just the whole package.
Yeah, your Instagram's cool as shit, man. There's a lot of good stuff on there. And I think when you get to the YouTube stuff, what you did the other day about when you showed the Hollywood, how the guy was holding the pistol, that's definitely worth some reviews. So I'm looking. See, I couldn't tag you earlier because I forgot about the underscore. So I can't even find it. Can you say it again? Is it underscore and then Christian?
_Christian _Bender. Let me check myself here on my phone.
Because people are going to go look you up, so I want to make sure they can actually find you. And then your
underscore
YouTube name.
Okay.
Yeah, your new YouTube name should be, I don't know.
Underscore.
It'll be something badass. Yeah, underscore. And so if you guys can't find him directly, you can you can just search it. It'll pop up. Oh, there you are. All right, cool. I got it. Because I'm gonna see if I can put your link in there.
Cool.
I think I can share links. People like to click on stuff. That's what we do. There you go. You guys can click on that. So he has some really cool training stuff, and you can click on it in the chat, guys.
I will be doing it completely bilingual in the future. So every post I will be publishing will be in German, will be German and English as well, because of the international audience. So
yeah, that's cool, man. I'm looking forward to the YouTube. We'll do some great things. So
I will.
All right. Anything else?
Well, me and my baby are going to bed now. I got a course running this weekend, so tomorrow final day.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, stick around for a minute, and we'll thanks for joining us, guys. This was pretty cool. I hope some of you guys learned some stuff, and I know it was entertaining. It's really cool to do this cross-cultural stuff. So I'll see you guys all in the next one.